Captain Elias Trent's transport shuttle shuddered as it pierced the green canopy of Aureus Ivy's great forest. The ship's lights flickered, and alarms began their urgent chorus. Elias gripped the edges of his console, breath coming in short bursts. Every gauge registered failure. Engines sputtered, hydraulics hissed, and communication arrays went silent. The shuttle tilted sharply, veering away from the planned landing zone. Far below, hidden between massive ferns and twisted vines, a lone figure watched. She stood tall, her silver wings folded neatly against her back, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. Elias glimpsed her as the shuttle's nose dipped. For a moment, time froze. Two strangers locked in a silent meeting across impossible distance. Elias hauled back the controls and managed a rough descent. The shuttle's landing thrusters flared, kicking up clouds of emerald dust and glowing spores that drifted like tiny lanterns. With a final lurch, the shuttle ground to a halt in a small clearing. Trees bowed under the weight of its crash. Panels smoked and sparks flew. Elias unbuckled his harness and took a deep breath, fighting the tremor in his legs. He shoved open the hatch. Hot, sweet air rushed in, heavy with the scent of alien flowers. The forest was alive, every leaf and vine pulsing with strange energy. Glowworms danced on mossy rocks. Insects with ruby eyes scuttled past his boots. Yet beyond this riot of life, Elias saw only one face, the figure from before, now drawing closer. He stepped onto the soft moss. Each foot sank slightly, as if the ground itself welcomed him. Keeping his hands raised to show peace, he said, "I'm Captain Elias Trent. I mean no harm." His voice echoed oddly in the hush of the forest. The figure stopped a few paces away. Elias recognized the shape of a crown atop her head, crafted from living crystal and delicate vines. Her hair flowed like liquid silver down her back. Yet her wings, those mighty wings, hung at an angle as if one side might not open again. Elias spotted a glint among the greenery, an injured wing joint. He knelt and retrieved a small first aid kit from his pack. Carefully, he pulled out bandages and a serum injector. Heart pounding, he offered them to her. "I have medicine," he said gently. "I can help your wing." The Queen's glowing eyes widened. She frowned, uncertain. No outsider had ever offered her aid. Her people revered her strength. Vulnerability was unheard of. Yet here, in this fragile moment, her pride faltered. Elias worked slowly, speaking in simple, soothing words. He cleaned the wound, injected the serum, and wrapped the bandage firmly. As he worked, he realized he had never felt such a quiet excitement. The jungle around them seemed to lean in, as if it knew a new chapter had begun. When he finished, Elias stood and stepped back. The Queen tested her wing, flexing it gently. A soft glow of healing light traced the bandage, and her feathers quivered as strength returned. She looked at Elias, a simple human, far from home, who had saved her. In that moment, they both sensed a bond forming, one that would change their lives and the fate of two worlds. Dawn light filtered through the tall, silver-leaved trees, casting pale beams across the clearing. Captain Elias Trent stood beside the ruined shuttle, studying the alien forest with awe. He felt sure now that the figure he had helped was a ruler of great importance. His heart still beat fast from the earlier rescue. The Queen moved with slow grace. She tested her healed wing, spreading it wide, as if to embrace the sky. Then she lowered it gently, folding the feathers back along her shoulders. Elias nodded with relief. The serum had worked. Her strength had returned. She spoke at last, her voice soft, but carrying clear power. "I am Queen Cirilla of the Orient Empire," she said. Her words echoed among the trees like a gentle chime. "You risked your life to save me. No human has ever done such a thing." Elias bowed respectfully. "I am honored, Your Majesty. I saw you in pain and I wished to help." He kept his tone calm and true. He had faced danger many times, but nothing as strange or beautiful as this. Queen Cirilla's glowing eyes darkened with worry. "You came at a strange time, Captain Trent," she said. "Our world is in danger. The heart garden at the center of our capital is dying. Its life-giving waters are poisoned by a blight we cannot stop. Elias frowned. He remembered the stories he had read about Aureus IV before his mission, of floating crystal towers and gardens that glowed in rainbow colors. He had dreamed of seeing such wonders. "What is this blight?" he asked. "What causes it?" Cirilla lifted her hand, and a small orb of light appeared above her palm. It pulsed like a beating heart. "This light is the essence of our heart garden," she explained. "It carries the life force of every plant, every creature. But now it grows dim. The flowers wilt, the trees grow pale, and the streams run stale." She closed her hand, and the light vanished. Elias felt a chill. Without the heart garden, the planet would become barren. Its people would suffer. "Can I help?" he asked. "Maybe my medical supplies, or my scanners." He searched his pack, pulling out a compact device. It could analyze chemicals and tell him if something was wrong. Cirilla watched him with hope. "Your technology is advanced," she said. "It may reveal the source of the poison." She rose and began to walk toward the deeper forest. "Will you come with me to the garden's edge?" Elias fell and stepped beside her, careful not to step on the glowing spores that drifted at their feet. The air grew warmer, and the forest canopy opened above them, revealing a distant city of iridescent towers. But even from here, Elias could see the gardens below were sick. Flowers drooped, their petals dull. Pools of water were murky. The queen paused at the high stone railing overlooking the city plaza. "We owe everything to these gardens," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "They feed us, heal us, and guide our spirits. If they die, our empire will crumble." Elias placed a hand on the railing and leaned forward. He watched a single wilted lotus drift on the cracked marble. "We'll find the cure," he promised. "I'll help you fix this, Your Majesty." Cirilla turned to him, surprise and relief shining in her eyes. A faint smile touched her lips. "Very well, Captain Trent," she said. "Together, we shall save Aureus IV." In that moment, Elias felt a new purpose. He had come to this world by chance, but now his mission was clear: to stand with the alien queen and heal her dying realm. Their journey had only just begun. The sun climbed higher over Aureus IV as Queen Cirilla and Captain Elias Trent descended from the forest's edge toward the heart garden. Each step brought them closer to the delicate balance of life itself. Elias carried his compact scanner, its lens glinting in the pale light, while Cirilla walked with measured grace, her repaired wing brushing softly against her robes. They passed through an archway carved from living crystal, its facets casting rainbows onto the path. Elias marveled at the beauty, but Cirilla's gaze was fixed ahead, where the great gates of the heart garden stood half open. Vines writhed over the stone, their leaves withered and gray. The air smelled faintly of rot. Elias cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, may I run a scan near the water pools first? It might tell us what chemicals are in the soil and water." Cirilla nodded, stepping aside. "Do what you must, Captain." Elias knelt by a shallow pool. The water, once a crystal blue, was now murky brown. He placed the scanner at the edge and pressed a button. A soft hum filled the air. Numbers and colored bars appeared on the device's screen. Elias frowned as he studied them. "High levels of a toxin similar to Earth's heavy metals," he explained quietly. "Strange. This world should not have such minerals near the surface. It must come from deep underground veins or an outside source." Cirilla's glowing eyes dimmed with concern. "A blight of unknown origin," she whispered. "If it seeps into the heart garden's core, it could poison every living thing on this planet." Elias stood and slipped the scanner back into his pack. "We need to find where it's coming from," he said. "Maybe an underground spring or a fault in the planet's crust." Cirilla offered her hand. "I know these gardens better than any. I will guide you." He took her hand, surprised by the warmth. The simple touch felt like a pact. As they entered deeper, The garden's central chamber lay before them, a vast dome of translucent crystal, vines coiling around glowing pillars. In its center stood the heart fountain, once a roaring spout of pure energy, now a weak trickle. Elias approached the fountain, his boots leaving soft imprints on the moss-covered floor. He studied its base and noticed tiny cracks oozing dark liquid. Carefully, he pressed a sensor from his pack against the stone. The reading spiked with toxicity. Cirilla knelt beside him, her voice trembling. "This fountain is our heart. Without it, the gardens cannot live." Elias looked into her eyes and saw not just a queen, but a leader who carried the weight of her people on her shoulders. "We will fix this," he said firmly. "I'll build a filter or a barrier to block the toxin." She placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Your strength gives me hope, Captain. Together, we are more than ruler and guest. We are partners." In that moment, Elias felt a deep sense of purpose and belonging. He realized that his promise to help had grown into a bond stronger than any machine he had built. Side by side, human and queen prepared to safeguard the life of Aureus IV. Their journey, born of chance, had become a shared mission, and a friendship that neither world could ever break. Morning light shone through the crystal walls of the palace's private garden, painting Cirilla's chamber in soft rainbows. Captain Elias Trent stood before a low table of alien fruits and sweet drinks. The queen sat across from him, her repaired wing draped gracefully over the arm of an ivory chair. Elias tasted a round violet fruit. Its flesh was cool and juicy, like a blend of melon and berry. He smiled. "This is delicious," he said. Cirilla returned his smile with a gentle tilt of her head. "It is called Star Pear," she explained. "It only grows where the gardens are strongest." They ate in comfortable silence, watching glowing petals drift in the fountain beside them. Elias felt a warmth beyond the sweet fruit, an ease in Cirilla's company that surprised him. When they finished, Cirilla rose. "There is one more ceremony I must perform," she said, her voice both soft and firm. "It is an old Orion ritual, honored by every queen before me. But you, Elias Trent, have earned my deepest gratitude." She led him through the palace halls, down corridors lined with living walls of moss and tiny blossoms. Courtiers paused in their duties, bowing low as Cirilla and Elias passed. Whispers trailed behind them. The human consort, the spaceman of the queen. Elias's heart pounded. He had expected thanks, perhaps a medal, but he had not imagined this level of honor. They entered a grand chamber, its ceiling high and arched, with a mosaic floor of polished stones. At the center stood a crystal dais, shaped like an open flower. Cirilla stepped onto it and turned to face him. "In the ceremony of bonds," she began, "a queen chooses a partner to share her burdens and her triumphs. No blade is drawn, no war is declared. Instead, two souls pledge to support each other in all things." Elias swallowed. His training had never prepared him for anything like this. He opened his mouth to speak, then stopped. The sincerity in Cirilla's glowing eyes held him silent. She raised a slender hand, and two attendants approached, bearing a woven band of living vines and silver strands. Cirilla took the band and wove it around Elias's wrist. The vines glowed and tightened gently, as if recognizing his touch. "By this bond," Cirilla declared, her voice echoing in the hush, "I, Queen Cirilla of the Orion Empire, name Elias Trent my bonded spouse." A soft hum filled the chamber. Crystalline pillars glowed brighter. Courtiers gasped and bowed deeper, their telepathic greetings washing over Elias like a warm breeze. Gifts were presented: a small vial of aurum water, a cloak of light fibers that shimmered with every movement, and a medallion bearing the queen's crest. Elias stood frozen, the band warm around his wrist. He felt honored but unprepared. "Your Majesty," he finally managed, voice steady though his mind raced. "I thank you. I only wish to help." Cirilla stepped down and placed her hand on his shoulder. "And help you have, Elias. But more than that, You have shown compassion, courage, and respect for my people. These are the true marks of a consort." Outside the chamber, drums began a slow, welcoming rhythm. A procession formed to escort them back through the palace. Elias took a deep breath, realizing that his promise to aid the queen had changed into a promise of partnership for both their worlds. Near the high domed ceiling of the palace's Hall of Voices, Captain Elias Trent found himself trying to follow a dance of silent glances. Crystal chandeliers floated overhead, casting kaleidoscopic light across the marble floor. Around him, Orient nobles stood in clusters, their telepathic whispers brushing against his mind like distant music. Elias wore the cloak of light fibers given by Queen Sorella. Its threads shimmered with every breath, but he felt naked without his usual uniform. He glanced at Sorella, who stood beside him, regal and serene, yet her wings twitched with barely contained tension. A court minister approached, a tall figure with opalescent skin and eyes like molten gold. He bowed deeply, lips moving in a soft chant. Elias barely caught the meaning, a greeting that honored both queen and consort. The minister pressed a hand to his chest, then traced an elegant symbol in the air. "Esteemed Consort Trent," the minister's voice resonated directly in Elias's mind. "We welcome your wisdom among us." Elias swallowed, forcing a smile. "Thank you." He tried to return the gesture by placing his hand over his heart, as he had seen Sorella do. The minister's eyes widened in surprise and approval, and a ripple of welcoming thoughts swept through the nearby nobles. As the crowd parted, Elias noticed servants bearing trays of delicate crystal cups filled with a glowing blue liquid. A courtier offered him one, whispering its name, Larian Dew, harvested from the petals of the dawn-bloom flower. Elias sipped carefully. The taste was cool and sweet, like fresh rain. A warm glow spread through him, sharpening his thoughts and soothing his nerves. Despite the beauty, Elias sensed unease around him. He moved closer to Sorella. "Your Majesty," he murmured, "why does the court seem divided?" Sorella's eyes darkened. "Some believe you are a symbol of hope and progress," she explained softly. "Others fear change. They worry a human consort will upset ancient traditions or bring trouble from beyond our skies." Before Elias could reply, a sharp murmur rippled through the hall. 4 tall figures stepped forward, their wings half-folded in challenge. They were High Lords of the Empire, each bearing a different cycle. The Moonspike clan, the Starweaver House, the Crystal Tide, and the Thornguard. Their leader, Lord Emrian of the Thornguard, fixed Elias with a cool stare. "Consort." Emrian's voice echoed in Elias's mind. "Your presence here breaks the sanctity of our bloodlines." Elias steadied himself. He forced calm into his tone. "I honor the Orient people and their ways. My only wish is to serve Queen Sorella and protect her world." Emrian's lips curled. "Your words are pleasing, but your kind brings doom." He signaled his allies, and a ripple of disapproval spread. Sorella placed a gentle hand on Elias's arm, her thoughts brushing his mind like a shield. "Ignore them. You have my trust and my people's future." Gaining courage, Elias lifted his chin and addressed the gathering. "I may be human, but I stand for unity and life. I have helped your queen heal her wing, and now stand ready to heal your gardens. Let my actions speak for my intentions." Silence followed. Then, one by one, the nobles bowed, accepting his words. Even Lord Emrian's rigid posture loosened, though his eyes still held caution. As the Hall of Voices brightened with renewed harmony, Elias realized that court life was its own battlefield, one of words and wills rather than weapons. Side by side with Sorella, he was learning to navigate this world of silken politics, determined to prove that empathy and cooperation could triumph over fear and tradition. Early morning mist clung to the ground as Queen Sorella and Captain Elias Trent set out from the palace gates. Elias carried his scanner and a small portable lab kit. Sorella led the way, her healed wings stretched wide to catch the cool air. They traveled across jade meadows toward the bioluminescent marshes, swamps of glowing plants, and soft, sponge-like ground. The path dipped and rose like gentle waves. Elias kept his eyes on the scanner's readings while Cyrilla watched the sky for safe routes. At the marsh's edge, giant lily pads floated on shallow water, their undersides shining pale green. Strange insects hummed above the surface, weaving patterns of light. Elias knelt and dipped a test tube into the water. "The toxin is here too," he said quietly. "But there's another compound, something pure and healing." Cyrilla's eyes brightened. "The sun lotus grows deeper in. Its petals hold a natural purifier. If we can harvest it, we can make a cure." They stepped onto a large lily pad. It bobbed under their weight, but held firm. Cyrilla pointed to a cluster of tall, slender reeds. "Follow those reeds. They mark the old river where the sun lotus blooms." Elias nodded. Carefully, he placed flat wooden boards to bridge the wet gaps. Each board pressed into the soft soil and stayed solid. Step by step, they advanced until the glowing reeds thinned and a pale clearing appeared. There, at the heart of the marsh, grew the sun lotus. Its petals glowed like miniature suns, floating just above the water on slender stalks. The flowers opened wide, their golden cores pulsing with warmth. Elias felt a thrill. He unpacked his portable lab and set up small collection vials. Cyrilla knelt beside him. "Be gentle," she whispered. "The lotus only blooms once each cycle." With careful hands, Elias clipped a single sun lotus flower stalk and placed it in a special chamber device. The machine hummed and shone as it extracted the purifier compound. Numbers on its screen rose steadily, indicating purity and strength. Suddenly, the ground trembled lightly, a sign of shifting marshland. Water rippled across the lily pads. Elias stood quickly, steadying his kit. Cyrilla rose too, sensing danger. But the march was not angry, it was curious. Bioluminescent tendrils of algae floated toward them, glowing brighter as if greeting old friends. The lotus's light pulsed in time with the tendrils. Elias realized the marsh itself was alive and aware. He lowered his scanner. "This place," he said softly. "It knows we come in peace." Cyrilla smiled, her wings fluttering. "Then we are welcome." With the compound safely stored, Elias sealed the vials. He offered one to Cyrilla. She touched it and closed her eyes. A soft glow appeared around her hand, confirming the cure's power. Together, they turned back, retracing their steps over boards and lily pads. As they left the marsh's edge, the glowing reeds bowed in farewell. The sun lotus behind them continued its gentle pulse, as if it understood the hope it had given two friends from different worlds. Elias carried the cure with careful pride, and Cyrilla flew above, her wings casting golden reflections on the mist. Side by side, human and queen prepared to restore life to the dying gardens of Orcs IV. Their quest, guided by science, respect, and courage, had brought them the gift of renewal. A sudden storm rolled in as Captain Elias Trent and Queen Cyrilla made their way back from the marsh. Dark clouds swept low, and flashes of violet lightning split the sky. The wind roared through the forest, bending even the tallest trees. Elias gripped Cyrilla's hand. "We need shelter," he shouted over the wind. He scanned the area and spotted a narrow cave entrance hidden behind thick vines. They dashed toward it, leaves whipping around them, and slipped inside just as the first drops of acid rain hissed against the rock. The grotto was cool and damp, lit by glowing crystals embedded in its walls. Stalactites dripped sparkling water into shallow pools. Elias lowered his scanner and watched the storm rage outside, a wall of wind and lightning that seemed to shake the very ground. Cyrilla sat on a flat stone, her wings folded tightly. Her usual calm had vanished, replaced by visible tension. Elias knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're safe here," he said softly. Cyrilla closed her eyes, the glow of her wings dimming. "I am not as strong as I appear," she admitted, her voice almost lost in the drip of water. My people see me as their rock. They expect me to bear every burden without doubt. Elias fetched a dry cloth from his pack and handed it to her. Even rocks can crack under pressure, he said. You don't have to carry everything alone. She accepted the cloth, wrapping it around her wing. When I declared you my consort, she continued, I did so to honor your kindness. But I fear I have bound you to my troubles. Elias shook his head. Being with you is my choice. I stand by you, whatever comes. You saved our mission with your guidance. Now let me return the favor. Cirilla opened her eyes and looked at him, the crystal in her crown catching the low glow of the grotto. What if I fail? What if the blight returns after we cure the garden? My people will suffer, and I will have no one to turn to. Elias smiled gently. Then we face it together. You have strength of spirit and the wisdom of ages. I have a mind to solve problems and a heart that believes in you. She studied his face, as if seeing him anew. Your faith means more than any words spoken in ceremony. A distant crack of thunder shook the grotto walls. Water dripped faster. Elias stood and offered his hand. Come, let's explore deeper. We might find a hidden spring or mineral source that tells us more about this storm. Cirilla took his hand and rose. As they ventured further inside, the storm's roar faded behind them. Strange glowworms lit their path, and the air felt charged with calm energy. They discovered a hidden pool fed by an underground stream. The water was clear and pure, untouched by the toxin. Elias knelt and tested the water with his scanner. This is a clean source, he said. If we can redirect this flow toward the heart garden, it could flush out the poison. Cirilla's face lit with hope. You see solutions even in darkness, she said. Together, they marked a path on the grotto wall using chalk from Elias's kit. In the soft glow, their shadows joined as one. The storm outside had driven them into a cave, but it also deepened their bond. Through trust and shared purpose, human and queen found a way forward, ready to bring fresh life to a world on the brink. At dawn's first light, Captain Elias Trent and Queen Cirilla stood on the marble balcony overlooking the heart garden. The air tingled with promise. Below, the once wilted flowers began to lift their heads, drawn by a gentle pulse of fresh water flowing through new channels. Elias pointed to the network of silver pipes and carved stone troughs that wound between the flower beds. We tapped the clean spring from the grotto, he explained. The water passes through these biofilters I built with the sun lotus purifier. It flushes out the toxin before it reaches the roots. Cirilla smiled, her wings unfolding in a graceful arc. Your design is elegant, she said. It honors the garden's beauty and protects its life. Together, they watched as workers in soft green uniforms guided the filtered water toward the central heart fountain. The fountain's once weak trickle grew stronger, turning into a steady stream that arced toward the sky. Beams of light danced through the spray, painting rainbows across the garden. Children of the Oregon court gathered at the railing, their eyes wide with wonder. One small girl reached out a hand, and a droplet of purified water landed on her palm. She gasped with delight at its cool, sweet taste. Cirilla knelt to speak with her. This water will heal our world, she promised, because we care for each other and our planet. Elias felt a swell of pride. He moved among the gardeners and engineers, offering quiet advice and encouragement. He showed them how to maintain the filters, how to monitor toxin levels, and how to tend the flowers that had suffered the most. As the sun climbed, the garden transformed. Dull petals regained their vibrant hues. Emerald leaves turned lustrous again, and crystalline vines shimmered with new life. The central platform, where Cirilla had declared Elias her consort, was now crowned by a ring of glowing blossoms. High lords and ministers emerged from the palace's arched doorways, their expressions of doubt replaced by genuine smiles. Lord Emrian of the Thorn Guard approached Elias, bowing his head. Your work has given us hope, he said, his mental voice steady and clear. You honor us by your kindness and skill. Elias inclined his head in thanks. I honor you all by learning from your wisdom and culture. Cyrilla joined them at the fountain's edge. She reached for Elias's hand and squeezed. "See what we can do when our worlds unite," she whispered. Above the garden, an Orion sunbird alighted on a blossoming branch, its feathers catching the light. It sang a clear, rhythmic call, a song of renewal that echoed through the marble colonnades. As afternoon warmed into gentle evening, the palace musicians began to play soft melodies on crystal harps. Courtiers and citizens gathered in the Hall of Blossoms, where Cyrilla and Elias stood together. They watched as gardeners released dozens of glowing lantern flowers into the sky, a celebration of life restored. In that moment, human and queen felt their bond deepen beyond duty. It was born of shared trials, of trust tested by storm and darkness, and of hope made real through compassion and ingenuity. The heart garden had been saved not by force, but by friendship. And through it, two worlds found a future blooming as brightly as any flower. A great procession wound its way from the heart garden, up the marble steps to the palace gates. Captain Elias Trent walked at Queen Cyrilla's side, his cloak of light fibers catching every ray of the rising sun. Behind them, gardeners carried baskets of bright flowers, and engineers rolled the biofilters that sustained the new water channels. At the palace entrance, a double line of silver-armored guards stood at attention. Their helmets glinted, and their spears were held high, an honor normally reserved for great generals, now offered to a human. As Cyrilla and Elias passed, the guards bowed deeply, their thoughts carrying silent messages of respect. In the courtyard, thousands of Orion citizens gathered. They cheered when the queen raised her hand. Elias hesitated, then lifted his own hand in greeting. The crowd's joyful cries rose like music through the air. Children waved luminous ribbons, and even the palace beasts, graceful crystal-winged deer, stood calmly, as if they understood the celebration. High lords and ministers joined the procession, their earlier doubts replaced with warm smiles. Lord Emrian of the Thorn Guard placed a hand on Elias's shoulder and spoke in his mind. "You have given us new life, friend." Elias nodded, humbled by the gesture. Around them, nobles exchanged respectful bows, acknowledging that a human's heart and mind had saved their world. Cyrilla led Elias into the grand hall of vows. The walls were draped with living vines, now bursting with flowers of every color. Above, crystal lanterns floated in midair, casting gentle light across the marble floor. The queen paused at the steps of her throne, turning to face her people. "Today," she announced, her voice both strong and warm, "we celebrate not only the rebirth of our gardens, but the forging of a new alliance." She motioned to Elias. "This man, Captain Elias Trent, came to Orius IV as a visitor. He stayed as our consort. He stood with me in storm and shadow, and through his skill and his kindness, he has given our world a future." The hall erupted in applause. Elias felt his cheeks warm. He stepped forward and drew a quiet breath. "I came here by chance," he began, his voice steady. "I found a world of beauty in need of help. But more than that, I found a queen who trusted me and a people who opened their hearts. Together, we have shown that when we learn from each other, anything is possible." Cyrilla extended her hand, and Elias took it. Warm light flowed between them, a bond of shared hope. In that moment, the boundaries between human and Orion seemed to fade, replaced by a stronger truth. Unity brings strength. The crowd's cheering swelled once more, and the lanterns above drifted into a spiraling dance. As the celebration continued into the long evening, Elias and Cyrilla stood side by side on the palace balcony. Below, the gardens glowed in renewed splendor. A cool breeze carried the scent of blossoms and the promise of tomorrow. Two worlds, bound by compassion and courage, looked forward to a bright new era, together. The sun rose over the palace of Orius IV, its light dancing through the crystal spires and setting the restored heart garden ablaze with color. Queen Cyrilla stood on the highest balcony, her silver wing catching the glow. At her side was Captain Elias Trent, now more Orion consort than distant visitor, looking out over the world they had saved together. Below them, the new Council of Unity gathered in the Hall of Vows. Scholars, engineers, gardeners, and healers from both human and Orion worlds took their places around a circular table carved from living wood. Streamers of glowing lantern flowers arched overhead, symbols of life renewed and friendships formed. Cyrilla stepped forward and raised her voice so all could hear. Today, we do more than celebrate our victory over the Blight. We build a future where our people share knowledge, respect, and hope. We pledge to learn from one another, using science and tradition hand in hand. Elias stood beside her, heart full. He remembered the day he crash-landed into the forest, meeting a wounded queen whose world was fading. He never imagined that simple act of help would bind him to a throne, or that he would stand here as a partner in rule. Yet every step of their journey had led to this moment. The first order of business was the creation of the Garden Alliance, a group dedicated to studying the planet's ecosystems and preventing future threats. Cyrilla and Elias appointed co-leaders. Orion botanist Lirail, whose knowledge of native flora was unmatched, and human ecologist Dr. Mira Santos, who had traveled across galaxies to study alien worlds. Together, they would blend Earth science with Orion wisdom. Next, the council turned to technology. Elias presented his biofilter design, now refined and scaled up. He showed how water from underground springs could purify the heart garden year-round without harming the delicate balance of life. The engineers in the hall murmured in approval, eager to build new networks of pipes and filters beneath every garden in the capital. Cyrilla then spoke of cultural exchange. Our children will grow up learning 2 languages, 2 histories, and 2 ways of seeing the stars. We will send our best artists and scholars to Earth, and invite Earth's finest thinkers here. By sharing our stories, we enrich both worlds. Outside, the first shipments of Earth books had already arrived, their covers bound in Orion vines. In return, paintings by Orion artists would travel to human museums, glowing softly in their frames. As the meeting ended, Cyrilla placed a hand on Elias's arm. "We have made more than a council," she whispered. "We have made a bond between worlds." Elias smiled, his eyes reflecting the rising sun. "And I will stand by you, now and always, to protect this bond." They stepped onto the balcony, hands entwined. Below, the heart garden thrummed with life, a living promise of days to come. Birds of crystal and feather sang together in the branches, and distant towers glowed like beacons of hope. In that shared dawn, human and Orion watched the future unfold. No longer separate, their worlds had become one through courage, compassion, and a simple act of kindness. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but together they would meet them. Partners, consorts, friends, and guardians of a bright new era.